I'm going to talk about a critical issue, particularly the safety and security implications, and from a technology as well as from a business perspective, especially in the Indian context, because we talk a lot about, I have customers both Indian as well as global. When it comes to technology issues, I always see two faces. Adoption in India on any new concept, it brings in its own challenges. We have a local ecosystem related issue, right? But otherwise, we have a lot to learn from what has happened elsewhere, no doubt on that. I'll just focus more, try to do my justification to the Indian story because most of my audience, I believe, it is from the Indian scenario. So I have a couple of slides. Yeah. And this is what I want to cover. I mean, a little bit about the whole concept of 360-degree digitization. And finally, I conclude with a small message. Today, if you ask me, the whole world talk about 360-degree digitization, especially after COVID, this got accelerated. It is one step further about our in the 4.0 journey, where design, development, testing, and certification, deployment, user experience, consumption of products and services is completely getting digitized. And this you can see in all the sectors. When it comes to industrial systems, the sector which we are addressing right now, it is getting accelerated. It started with automotive. We can see the clear definition of growth in that sector. Here you can see it is catching up very fast, where the complete value chain is getting digitized. When you bring in the Industry 4.0, especially from a technology perspective, these are the three areas where people normally discuss. One is the awareness. Second thing is the readiness. Third one is the availability of data. Awareness is not an issue. People are aware of 4.0. Not at all an issue. But the challenge in Indian context is the readiness part, especially from various stakeholders. Many places, we did not have the proper infrastructure. People were not aware of the actual implications. Because of this, since we were not ready, probably a couple of people gave wrong projections and forecast. I'm not saying misguided. Maybe with the lack of data, particularly in the Indian context, many of the forecasts which were given were realistic. So that expectation and reality, there is a gap, right, leads to a bit of dissatisfaction. That is what has happened. Otherwise, according to me, we are on track. We see a lot of changes happening in the Indian context. We also see the cost factor. Initially, it could be a higher perception, but then once the people see value perception will be created only when the leadership is convinced. This is where the leadership perspective towards technology adoption. We are also seeing, new gen leaders coming. I call it the Industry 4.0 leaders coming into the game. And they are also trying to address the skill gap in the workforce area. Data, today we have data. Because when we started, we did not have data. Maybe the data needs a little bit of fine-tuning in the Indian context. Technology adoption, when you adopt technologies in a particular ecosystem, in any ecosystem, Indian context, if you look at it, we always blame the manufacturers. Why the manufacturers are not doing that? But look at every stakeholder in this ecosystem is responsible for the manufacturer to become successful. We forget that. We just blame them. And typically, these are the stakeholders you see in a design, development, manufacturing environment. People like us, we bring in a tool and expertise, but there are other bigger players from the semicon to other supply chain, including government plays a major role. And in this context, very important terminology which I want to introduce is the dependable systems. In a 4.0 world, people always talk about dependable systems which are reliable, systems which are available when I want to use, systems which are safe, secure, which can be maintained, right? Even if something goes wrong, we should have a way to work on it. Now, given this dependable systems perspective, there is a shift that is happening in the product development certification framework. The traditional approach towards building products used to be based on quality. In all sectors, we are seeing this, not only in industrial sector. The quality concept, it picked up maybe with large-scale manufacturing in automotive and other sectors. Manufacturing industries were more concerned about that. Now, from there, we have a new era which is driven by so-called risk-based thinking. The risk-based thinking is basically coming from a perspective of if something goes wrong, if the system fails, what is its impact? Is it a hazardous one? If it is leading to deaths, accidents, or even somebody getting a mild injury, or no impact of that accident or a failure. Based on that, both from a safety and security perspective, we have the risk assessment framework today getting well established in all the industries, even in the industrial systems era. And that comes from the systems engineering thinking. We need a systems thinking in that perspective. Going further on that, I was talking about the readiness of the stakeholders. Let's see more from an Indian perspective. Whenever we build, a system perspective, the readiness perspective from a safety and security angle, um, you could build, the safety aspect of a system as well as security aspect of a system. Whenever you're building, people normally separate it. But today we are living in a world where you cannot separate it. If the system is getting hacked, naturally, your system is no more safe. And you go further, you are also seeing to understand this whole gamut of safety and security from a technical angle. I mean, I will explain a little bit further. If you have a safety certification in your product design development perspective in mind, the best standard, which is today known as the Bible of safety standards in the industrial world, is ISO 61508. Everybody knows that. Most of the people who are in the product development framework is familiar with that. Now, you do have the security framework. In fact, the previous conference days, I think people are talking about more on security. There we have the IEC 62443, which was originally developed by the ISA society and community people. In both these places, it is driven by the risk-driven development, design and development. Means looking at the impact of failure. If something goes wrong, if it fails, if somebody hacks my system, what is the impact? Based on that, I have a process called, HARA, Hazard Analysis and Risk Assessment Framework for Safety. Similar way at TARA, Threat Analysis and Risk Assessment Framework for Security. Only thing is, I need to list down my safety requirements. I need to list down my security requirements. All my requirements need to be tested thoroughly for a product to be qualified for safety and security. Ideally, you need to have a defensive approach, a proactive approach. Now, the challenge what we probably will see in a typical industrial system today is we have a whole lot of systems which are the traditional ones, right? And probably you also have got the new gen systems getting integrated into this. So the ideal 4.0 system is nothing but the IT becoming a bridge gap between the OT and the internet world. That is where the industrial Internet of Things, IIoT, comes into picture. Now, in this context, if you really wanted to build a product conforming to safety standard, conforming into security standards, making sure that your product is safe as well as secure, right? One need to be thinking big. He needs to come out of his traditional way of thinking. Means he needs to be a multidisciplinary person. Anybody who was trying to build this kind of system, this is again, we have probably gone wrong in the Indian context. People who were trying to build the systems, they were building in pieces, but they should have been thinking that this connected industrial IoT environment is nothing but it is a multidisciplinary approach. That means the academic community should start thinking that we need to build multidisciplinary engineers. The industrial systems manufacturers and designers should start thinking that we need to have connected systems which are multidisciplinary in nature, not just a controller, not just a mechanical system, not just a cloud at somewhere, right? So this perspective has to come from top to bottom. And if you ask me, this is one of the major bottlenecks which today probably blocked our adoption in the 4.0 in Indian context, because this is not only here. I'm interacting with the similar verticals in all other domains. Even in automotive, cars are becoming connected software-defined cars, but unfortunately, the management level leadership team is still not able to understand that Car is not at all a no more a mechanical system, right? That kind of mindset shift is required even in the industrial environment where we are talking about the 4.0 leadership skills which we're talking about. Going further, if you ask me what LDRA does in this space, yep, we bring in the right tool chains which actually helps our customers. We have a lot of customers in our industry. People who are making PLCs, people who are making connected systems, people who are making HVAC, people who are making large control systems, even in the nuclear environment, we have people who are making lifts, elevators. So they use our tools basically to test and confirm to safety standards like 61508 or a security standard like 62443 or a combination of multiple standards. We can even help people to uh, define that kind of thing, and we also bring in the right training or consulting around that. So my conclusion message for each one of you is, if you really wanted the 4.0 journey to make it happen in Indian context, we need expertise at all levels. Starting from the right policy making, people should be educated that we need right policies that will encourage a local design, development, and manufacturing and certification of products based out of India. Then only our products can be sold outside. We have a perception problem about made in India product, right? We need to address that part. That means we need to bring in the right policy framework. We need to bring in the right regulation in the market. Thanks to Bureau of Indian Standards, we hear in many verticals they're talking about cybersecurity as a mandatory standard. 62443 is getting mandated in many verticals right now. Right approach, and of course, the only challenge is not many people in India are willing to contribute in standards development, and that's an area where I think industry has to step in. Certification of products for safety and security compliance. We need to make it happen locally. That's again a challenge in Indian context because certification is considered as it's a fear factor. People are getting, "Oh, no, I don't want it because it's expensive." So we need to make it affordable. Probably this is where actually the right policy framework to come, where even government can subsidize some of these activities with regard to certification. Because I've seen in some of the export promotion councils talking about subsidizing product certification cost. I think that's something which we need to look at very seriously. Without international credentials for safety and security, it's impossible for us to export a product. Not only that, even if you want to sell our products in the Indian market, people are asking what type of safety certification you have. I've seen many vendors saying that I've certified my product myself. Sorry, that's not acceptable, especially if something goes wrong. Our human life is involved, our credibility is involved, and the last part, the most important thing is academic community has to be geared up with the right skills. The syllabuses need to be updated. The faculties need to be trained. I spend personally a lot of time, in this space because I know the future of my business rely on the expertise within our country. I repeat, within our country. Build the expertise. We've seen our business also growing. That's what we have started in 2010, the Indian operation. It's a UK-based company. We invested heavily on skill building in India. It paid off. 4 years. Most of the defense projects in India became our customers because we built that expertise. People started developing systems to the world-class safety security standards, especially from the safety angle. Now that's something which I think very important. And my recommendations are very simple. That it need to be safety and security culture as well as that practice need to be implemented from top to bottom. It should become a message by the top man, like quality always. Quality starts from the top. Right? Same way, safety and security also has to come from a top man's vision. Without that, to be frank, it's going to be difficult for made in India products to be sold even in our country also, because government is also seriously worried about, because as you know that the war game today in the whole world is moving towards the contactless warfare. We call it the information warfare, where security plays a major role. Naturally, whether it's a power grid or even your large industrial systems or products which are used in your home, anywhere, people are getting concerned about security. It needs to be taken utmost priority as a national security issue. Again, safety and security, as I told you, two sides of the same coin. If you're not secure, you're not safe anymore. Skills at all levels, that's very important. And the most important thing is, the targeted communication. It's very important that, as I told you, in many places, why it failed, the Industry 4.0 message, why it failed is one of the major reason is we communicate in a technical language, which probably make it very difficult for the top man to understand. We need to make the 4.0 language in a common man's language so that the leadership in our organizations understand it in a non-technical language, more from a return on investment. If you make the right investments, this is the ROI you will get. And it will help you, like I told you, if you get your product safety and security certified, you could sell your product not only in India, even within India. You can compete with your competitors saying that I have these credentials. And you can also tap into the global market, because design development, certification of a product, the whole total fixed cost for any product is if it is going to be more and more expensive. Naturally, we need to find more markets where we can sell this also. So it is very important. Communication plays a major role. And finally, as I told you that we as a ecosystem partner, we come with our 46 years of global history. Most of the large players in the safety security critical industries, our customers, starting from the aerospace to defense to nuclear to space. Of late, yes, the automotive or industrial systems market, where the experience which we have seen in other industries is really helping us. And being an academic offshoot, earlier I started by a professor from Liverpool University, we still believe the right way to be successful in India is basically through building skills at all levels. Could be academia, could be regulation, it could be the working professionals, and across. We believe that skills helps us to grow in this country. We do provide consulting. We do provide the right tools using which you can test your systems for software compliance for safety and security.